5 feet. There you go.
Gabriel, do you have anything to say?
Make a hole, folks. Let the people exit. Oh, no, you're good. Excuse me. Thank you. You got it, boss. You got it. Okay. Yep. This should be cool now. All right.
Hello, do you have anything that you want to say about your son, just in his defense? Would you like to say anything?
Is that to evaluate his mental condition? Or insanity defense?
Yes, we have some indication, both from the medications that he was taking at the time. He, I guess, was on some regular prescription for antidepressants, and his behavior throughout the investigation, that we thought it best to ask that an evaluation of his competence be accomplished right at the outset. So that will be the next step.
And that has to be done before any sort of official charging is done, correct?
Yes, because if a person is not competent to face charges, then what we do has no effect. So we want to make sure that he's competent. That is, they'll understand the nature of the proceedings against him, be able to assist his lawyer.
Do you know
In the
why
probable cause documents, he indicates, toward the end, detectives say that he indicated to them, kind of with motions, that he had done this, that he was responsible for Jenise's death. Do you consider that a confession?
Well, the probable cause statement has to stand on its own at this point. We're going to be looking at the contents of that interview, which went on for quite some time, a period of hours. Also, there are a number of other people to talk to who talked to him around that period of time. So we're still actively gathering evidence and trying to gather the reports.
And there seems to be a tremendous amount of physical evidence as far as clothing, blood, things like DNA.
Yes, there was a search warrant executed upon a number of cases, or a number of locations, and lots of trace evidence was obtained. We're making arrangements right now to get that analyzed. I should note that the speed with which the State Crime Lab turned around the DNA evidence that we had here is just outstanding. This was an all-hands effort by not just the FBI, local law enforcement, but the State Crime Lab as well, performed above and beyond all parameters we had a right to expect.
Were any other DNA swabs taken from any other potential suspects?
There were a number of voluntary swabs taken from virtually every male in the trailer park, but at this point there is no other person of interest in
Are there any
this crime.
unsolved cases in the area that he is maybe a suspect in?
At this point, there is nothing to suggest that he's involved in any other crimes. However, we will be looking at virtually any other crime that fits this profile, and his DNA will be entered into the CODIS database.
Sir, when you learned of the arrest and then reviewed the evidence, how did the case strike you personally?
Well, it struck me personally as a very sad end to a tragic set of circumstances. Fortunately, we have a very quality investigation, the product of outstanding cooperation by federal and local authorities. So I'm comfortable we'll have a good, solid case to take forward.
Is there confirmation that he was at the vigil?
I can't confirm that.
What was it that led us to asking him for that sample? Was it because he was a male who lived there?
That is something I'm not really prepared to comment further on. The investigation was very vigorous. We had the benefit of the geographic area being very discrete. In other words, the trailer park is not isolated geographically, but it is a discrete neighborhood. and virtually everyone in the park was cooperative, including the young man's parents and him ultimately.
Given the aggravators in this case, what does he face as maximum sentence if convicted?
Well, at this stage, right now, he faces what's called a determinate plus sentence. That would be one in which the judge would set a maximum sentence under the State Sentencing Reform Act, and then the Indeterminate Sentencing Review Board would review his releasability prior to that date. Because one of the offenses is a sex offense or homicide committed with sexual motivation. We are still actively, and we're going to be actively evaluating the evidence to determine whether the more serious charges are available, particularly aggravated murder.
Was there a reason for you to believe that the killer was nearby? You know, that's something that has surprised many of the people we've spoken to. Nearby and so young.
In a case like this, well, thankfully, we don't have many cases like this. Virtually anything is possible. I think that is probably the approach that most of the investigators had. They kept an open mind over who it could be and where that person might be found, and that's why it was as successful as quickly as it was.
It looks like he confessed. Did he?
Well, you're asking me to give you a legal conclusion at this point, and I'm not prepared to do that. I'm sorry.
Well, did he
We
make
discussed
statements
this.
in that way, though, that suggested that, did he make statements that suggested that he did this and did it by himself?
Certainly, as you can see from the probable cause statements, his interactions when he was being interviewed after he was informed of his rights suggested that he knew that responsibility was rightfully focused on him.
Can you explain why this is not a death penalty case?
Well, because in Washington, as a result of a number of decisions by both state and federal courts, a person under the age of 18 cannot face the death penalty, and he will not be 18 until December 23rd.
Can you talk at all about the relationship between him and the family?
No, I really can't address that.
Does he have a relationship with them? Because we were understanding that he might be related to some of them.
I don't believe that's true, but you'd have to confirm that elsewhere. It is a small, relatively cohesive community. I think that there were relationships among them. There may be other people here from the sheriff's office who are closer to the investigation that could give you more definite answers to questions like that.
Russell, was suspicion cast upon him earlier than anyone else? And if so, are you able to say why?
No, is the answer.
Does he face a possibility of life without parole? Is that a potential sentence in this
If we
case?
charge him with aggravated first-degree murder, then a potential sentence is life without the possibility of parole,
What will determine whether you charge him with that?
if we can prove it.
And how much bearing does the competency hearing and evaluation have on what you ultimately charge him with?
Well, the two are really separate inquiries. The competence evaluation is really whether we can charge him with anything. Right now, we're confident we can. We just want to nail that down. And once that is established, then we will proceed to determining what the ultimate charges are that he will face.
What do you expect that to take? How long do you think?
Well, the competency evaluation timing is really in the hands of Western State Hospital. I would expect that given the cooperation we've gotten from all the other agencies involved in this matter, that they will step up and get right to it. I'd certainly expect that. I would like to hope that we would have an answer by the time the next hearing, October 28th. That's not outside the realm of possibility.
So that's 72 hours, that deadline's not.
That deadline is now obviated by the order for competency evaluation.
Can you share perhaps with personal sentiment the family expressed to you?
I had very little direct contact with the family just before the hearing. They appreciate the support that they've gotten, and they asked to be remembered in all of our prayers.
Any concerns about the admissibility of evidence with the juvenile question, without a lawyer, DNA samples?
No, we have no concerns about the admissibility of any of the evidence. One of the great things about the way this task force came together is that deputy prosecutors from my office were included in the team from the outset, and they were there virtually nonstop since the crisis center or the task force center was formed, providing legal advice on the spot to both the federal and state authorities.
I missed your comments earlier about his mental state. Could you tell us again what his mental is, if he's been treated for mental illness?
All I can tell you for certain is we have information that he has been treated for depression and is currently perhaps being treated for depression, although I don't know that. And his affect during the interrogation suggested that this was an appropriate way to proceed, that we best make sure that competence was fully established before we proceeded any further.
Russ, did the state ask for the competency?
Yes, we did.
And what were the three? I was a little unclear. Which three?
Intentional murder with aggravating circumstances, and then felony murder committed in the course of a Class A felony, in this case rape of a child, and then rape of a child.